right, guys, I have to share this amazing story with you as I'm researching some Dr. Ken articles for Iron Journeys Part 2. If you don't have Iron Journeys, the first book, this is it, and you can pick it up on Amazon. Now, I don't have fancy camera skills, editing skills, bringing in photos of all this stuff, but you gotta hear these stories. Talk about people getting strong. Again, February issue 1979. I've got this on a blog post. I'll add this video to the blog post. It blows my mind how strong these guys were. And also want you to listen to what they called the training back then. And Joe Ken, Big House, said something very interesting. You know, like Dr. Ken, brought this strongman odd object training. I don't know like what word he used. I don't want to say to the forefront, but then it was the college strength coaches like Big House Power, Chris Doyle, who was at Iowa, and dang it, somebody else who implemented strongman training into an overall sports performance program. So I want you to listen. These numbers are amazing. So Dr. Ken is talking about memories of training at Zuver's Gym, as well as at Bill Peanuts West's garage, which was the original Westside Barbell Club, Culver City, California, which if you need more history lessons, John Wellborn's father is from Culver City, California. And in this magazine, they're selling the super suits, the squat super suits, which was invented by George Zangus, which is where John Wellborn began training out of George Zangus's garage. So here we go. He starts dropping names, and there's not first names, so I'm going to add them to you. So while you're listening, you could write them down and do some research. You could probably find some of their stuff on my website. Okay, so among those athletes, talking about the Bill Peanuts West garage, among those athletes were Len Ingro, Rudy Lozano, Willie Kindred, Tom Overholtzer, and Bill Whitting. Remember that name. I've never heard of Bill until now. Now listen to this write-up, because I did a podcast not long ago with my boy Cal Dietz and Dr. Mike T. Nelson about triphasic. In this workout, you're going to listen to overloaded eccentrics, okay? 1979, but these were done before then, okay? All right, Bill Whitting. Whitting and I trained together quite a bit as we were both at 198 and had similar strength in many movements. Bill held the squat record for a time at 628 pounds and was hell on wheels once he got fired up. He suggested a bench routine that about crippled me. Iron Man ran an article on it, volume 33, number 5, which I have. I'm going to have to dig it up out of the storage containers I have here. I'm going to find it. Volume 33, number 5, but the program bears repeating. My bench went from a respectable, for a football player, 365 to 395 in 3 weeks. So 30 pounds in 3 weeks. A lot of guys, when they're, that strong, they're not adding 30 pounds in a year. Here we go. In 3 weeks. That shocked me too, but I wasn't complaining. It's meant to be a specialization routine. So don't worry about the other 2 lifts at this time. So your squat and deadlift. Squats are done on Mondays and deadlifts are done on Fridays. A few heavy sets, but only for maintenance purposes. The key is to bench very, very heavy, up to 200 pounds over your maximum single. Warm up with 6 reps, and then jump to 3 sets of 3, which is a favorite of mine. I love 3x3. I also love a 3x5. Sorry, guys, the writing on these is so small, and my old eyes could just about use a magnifying glass to read this. 3 sets of 3. Then start to single in 20 to 25 pound jumps. When you're at your limit, have spotters, and they had best be good ones, help you down and then up with the weight. So you need 1 spotter on each side. I would go up to 500 pounds on this. So he's going up over 100 pounds, about 150 pounds over his normal 1 rep max. Doing a good deal of the eccentric portion by myself, at least to 400 pounds or so. Then work down in 25 to 40 pound steps. Then finish with 3 sets of 3 on your own. So you're going to work up to your heavy triples. Then you're going to keep adding weight, and you're going to fight that negative. If you could do eccentrics of 10 seconds, that is great. I think if you can't do them for 5 seconds, then you're not really doing an eccentric. You got to get 5 to 10 second range, and on those smaller, the lower end, you got to be going for 10 seconds. I would go up to 500 pounds on this, stated that, then work down in 25 to 40 pound steps, finish with 3 by 3 on your own. You will hurt, no lie. Follow with a few heavy triples in the dumbbell press and dips. Back then, I'm not sure if he's meaning seated dumbbell presses, which used to be a staple. We don't see seated dumbbell military presses. It's something I'm going to actually implement at the underground, get our athletes stronger in the shoulders. We do military presses. We do push presses. You see a lot of kettlebells in our training, but there's something different about that seated dumbbell military press. Okay, follow the heavy triples, dumbbell press, and dips. Dips were very big at Zuber's gym. I don't know if they had any dip bars at Bill West's original Westside Barbell garage. And then what do we go to here? On Wednesday, there's no benching. Only 6 or 8 sets of triples in the inclines, followed by the dumbbell presses and dips. So I'm thinking those dumbbell presses are the military presses. It's a killer, but all the guys swore by it. Can't use it more than twice a year, and again, good spotters are essential. So you've got that heavy bench day with triples, then the heavy eccentrics, we'll just call it triphasic, okay? And he says, yeah, twice a year. I used to do this as a bodybuilder. I can't believe we did it. I can't believe I did it drug-free. I think the thing that helped me was my mindset, was I was crazy. All right, now back to Zuber's gym. He says, Bob ran a pretty clean place, so workouts were short and to the point. He had a number of odd pieces of equipment, which brought in Anderson. I think he's talking about Paul Anderson. Todd, we're talking about Terry Todd. Casey, Pat Casey, et al. And this tended to keep everyone training hard. What do I always say? You want to get strong? Have great training partners, be in a great environment. If you have shitty training partners, shitty environment, I don't care what program you follow, you cannot get strong that way. This is why I always say, my program, it doesn't matter how good my programming and coaching is, if the athlete doesn't show up. It does nothing, okay? In addition, I'm sorry. Let's back up here. This tended to keep everyone training hard. Anderson curled 300 pounds on an easy curl bar as if it were a warm-up. First off, I'd love to see what easy curl bar could hold such weight. I'm pretty sure Ivanko Barbell was created back then, but that being said, Bob Zuber created all his own equipment, and Ivan Linsier, president of Ivanko, his father Tom started Ivanko, he had conversations with Bob Zuber, and that would be some cool questions I could ask him about next time we do a podcast. 300-pound easy curl like it was a warm-up. I almost blew out a number of circuits lifting the big barrel, a monstrosity filled with shifting water, but Casey heaved it up as if it were a lunch pail, okay? There's a photo of Dr. Ken lifting it. I think he was something like the 12th person or 11th person in history to lift it out of Zuber's gym. In addition to being the first man, to our knowledge anyway, to bench 600 pounds, and then it says 617 in parentheses, Pat Casey had a great appetite. Now listen to how they eat. When I tell athletes they got to eat big, I mean, this takes eating big to the next level and then some. The aforementioned Harold Pearl and Pat used to visit the Viking Manor. I mean, can you imagine a restaurant named the Viking Manor? I mean, I love it already. A now defunct restaurant that was foolish enough to serve you an all-you-could-eat for a rather meager sum. It got to the point that Harold and Pat would visit the place and the owner would give them each $10 to actually eat elsewhere. I believe the deal was that they could eat there once a week and they could pick up some change to eat elsewhere once a week. At this same establishment, the legendary Chuck Aarons once came close to breaking the bank. By the time I had arrived, some of the other fellows had been there chowing down and hit me with the news. It's Aarons, you won't believe it. The man himself, 24-inch arms, 600-pound bench, training in a raincoat at 3 a.m. All the stories came back in a flash. I'm not sure if it was Dick Canister. What kind of name is that? I mean, shame on the parents for naming their son Dick Canister. Richard Moose, okay, and we thought I have a weird name, okay, or whomever, can't recall everything from 10 years ago. Okay, so Dr. Ken was training at Zuver's gym in the late 60s. I mean, what a magical time. But it was decided that a careful record should be kept of this momentous occasion. Watches were synchronized and estimated poundages were made. I think that Aarons went back for a full plate of food, something on the order of every 9 minutes for over 4 hours. Something absurd like that. It was amazing, but what does one expect when dealing with an individual who would accompany others, like Steve Merjanian, to a junkyard to turn cars over sideways? Now listen to this. Adjunctive training, I think it was called. So these guys were powerlifters, and they went to junkyards to flip cars over. They didn't even call it strongman training. This is 1979. I believe the first World's Strongest Man was 1978, so it's kind of weird, but they called this adjunctive training, like extra training that's a little bit different. At the Merjanian, at the Merjanian, I don't know why this is skipping. At the time, Merjanian had defied rumors of a massive weight loss by gaining an additional 30 pounds, bringing him to 295 pounds at about 5'8" in order to incline bench 500 pounds. This was done with room to spare. The only other 500 incline done at that time was Pat Casey's. As I remember it, he took 515 in West's garage. Again, Bill Peanut's West garage, Westside Barbell, one Saturday morning, except he did it while turning his head to the side, probably staring at the guys to show them how easy it was for him. As long as big inclines are the current topic of conversation. Sorry guys, the font on this is so small and no space. As long as big inclines are the current topic of conversation, Mike Barnett at 180 and 5'4" was inclining and benching 400 pounds or so before anyone of that body weight was doing 350. I'm going to cut it there. We're 13 minutes in. Now thinking of like heavy incline benching and big chests, it reminds me of an athlete who said to me, hey, what do you think of bench pressing to the neck? And I said, dude, that will wreck your shoulders. He's like, yeah, but it really hits your upper pecs. And if you only do it every once in a while, it can't be that bad. That same athlete had so many shoulder issues, he had to drop out of the sports he was in. And I remember he could never do pull-ups because he felt like his shoulder was going to dislocate. As I've said many times before, a lot of times these bodybuilding exercises, when you're just doing so much volume in those like specific ranges of motion, you destroy your joints. Powerlifting USA, stories from 1979. My God. Dr. Ken Leistner, wishing you much love in the Iron Heavens. And I believe the Iron Heavens simply looks like Zuver's Hall of Fame gym. And all the old timers are up there drinking old school protein powder and eating steak, eating eggs, and lifting heavy in the Iron Heavens. Much love. I'm out of here.